Good to see everybody. My name is Chris Karcher. I'm Procore's Director of Product Management for Workforce Management products. This is my second time presenting at Groundbreak. My first time was about 2 hours ago, so I'm seeing a lot of familiar faces here. But fun fact, I've also been to every Groundbreak that Procore has hosted. I've been at Procore for about 8 years, so I've also seen a lot of customers that were at the very first Groundbreak too. So some veterans and some new faces in the room. Really good that everyone was able to make it out. I'm here today with two Procore customers, David and Justin, and we're going to talk about Procore's workforce management product, but also how contractors are utilizing technology to improve their workforce management practices. So really excited to hear from them. I'm going to go ahead and run through my intro so that we can get to the good stuff that they'll talk about in a minute here. Before we get started, we're going to be talking about some things in this presentation that are forward-looking, some really cool new stuff at the end of the presentation about where we're taking the product. Just want to remind everybody that we should make any purchasing decisions today based on what's available today, and you can read the full text available here on our website, procore.com. So let's jump in. To recap the agenda, I'm going to do an introduction quickly to talk about some of the challenges that we're seeing with workforce management in the industry. It'll be a little bit different from my presentation earlier though, so not too much of a recap. And then Justin and David are going to talk about what they're experiencing managing workforce today in terms of people, processes, and technology. Then we'll wrap up with a couple short product demos, and I'll talk for a few minutes about where we're taking the product next. So let's jump in. Here's our three speakers. Like I said, my name's Chris. I lead product management for Procore's workforce management products. I've been at Procore for quite some time, but nowadays my focus is on helping contractors better plan, track, and manage their workforce. Most of the time I've been at Procore, I've been spending time with self-performing contractors, so very near and dear to my heart. We know that labor is so critical to that part of the business, so that's been my focus. Most recently, I've been helping with the labor chart integration, that acquisition from last year, so happy to talk about that and more in the Innovation Lab later today. I'll let these two guys give an introduction to themselves when they have their speaking parts come up in a minute. So Will shared this stat earlier today, but I wanted to pull it up because it is so compelling. We are approaching an inflection point right now where the industry will need to bring in 500,000 new workers on top of normal hiring in order to meet demand. One of the things driving this need that we didn't talk about earlier that I think is really interesting is a stat I heard recently that 40% of the workforce is going to be retiring in the next 10 years. That's really meaningful for workforce management because we know that a lot of times the workforce management best practices and heuristics are tied up with just a couple people at the company. So it's really urgent for us as a community to figure out how we're going to be solving this problem as many of our colleagues in the industry are retiring quickly in the years to come. So part of what we'll talk about today is how technology can help play a part in digitizing and improving those processes. With 40% retiring, it means there's going to be less of those folks to maintain some of these manual processes like these spreadsheets. These can create a single point of failure in businesses we hear because many times if this is the strategy to plan, track, and forecast workforce, when the person that manages the spreadsheet retires, it means that information is locked up in their head. So part of this is figuring out how to democratize some of that process of managing workforce with more people in the business rather than just a single person. Again, pretty common setup that we see on job sites today is whiteboards and manual processes. These are specifically challenging for anybody that's trying to look for insights across jobs though. It offers very little by way of strategic planning and even less in terms of forecasting. So as we looked at how technology can help solve problems, a big part of it was removing and digitizing some of these whiteboards that we saw in job site trailers across the world. And then the last one, hopefully we're not using this as a practice, but I think everyone's probably seen at least one of these. I've actually showed this a couple times to customers, but it wasn't until these two pointed out to me, the middle one, Caleb here, We're actually pretty impressed that he allocated his time across the two different scopes of work there. So we all agreed he's going big places, but I think in general, this just shows the fact that we don't have a lot of good solutions today, and we haven't had a lot of good solutions in this area. So we need to be investing more and more into digitizing some of these solutions going forward. So we'll talk more about how Procore is helping with this in a minute, but just to recap the big challenges here, we're seeing issues with understanding labor availability, with communicating between field and office, with shifting schedules and how that impacts labor plans, and finally with tracking the right information, not on McDonald's wrappers, but in a solution that's scalable and that's lasting for your business. So how Procore is helping here. This is our mission with workforce management that my team wakes up every day and thinks about. It's kind of the why behind what we're building at Procore in this area. And I won't read the whole thing, but there's a couple key parts that I wanted to call out here that I find really compelling. The first is efficiently and effectively. As we're thinking about building workforce management solutions in Procore, we're really focusing on delivering solutions that the field can easily adopt and use. We know it's not their job to be entering data all day. We really want to focus on making it as easy as possible so they can spend more time building and less time in the application. And the second one I think is a really relevant one for this presentation is best practices. So we're not just interested in delivering technology to the construction industry, but in facilitating the discussion about best practices to manage workforce. And that's why we have David and Justin up here today to share some of those best practices. And in my opinion, that's one of the best parts about Groundbreak is getting together and sharing what's working, what's not working, so that we can improve productivity across the whole industry together. So lastly, these are the 4 areas we'll talk about in terms of how Procore Workforce Management is helping these 2 folks today. We'll hear from David first, but think as these 2 are presenting how planning, forecasting, tracking, and connecting can be made better with some of the processes that he's using. So David, I'll go ahead and hand it over to you.
Thank you, Chris. I'm Dave Crystal. I'm with Jostin Construction. I sit as our general manager of our GC division. A little bit about me. I've started in construction in my early teens. My father was a residential contractor, so I've come up in the trades. Carpenter by trade, moved into project management, and then as well field operations. Jostin's a unique company. We are a 25-year-old Cincinnati-based firm. We're unique in the aspect of we have a concrete division, we have a general contracting division, construction management division. We specialize in self-performance. Right now we're carrying about 79 carpenters and laborers. So workforce planning, workforce management, very crucial to us. Most of our work is total package concrete, concrete site work, tenant fit out, retail, higher education, renovation, construction. 2 of the clients here we have Cincinnati Zoo and Botanical Gardens, as well as GE. We personally have helped implement Procore within Cincinnati Zoo. Actually, one of our project managers sitting here, she is the one who has put that out for us. Same as what Chris stated. Anybody in operations well aware, looking at the whiteboard, it's painful. We were doing this on a regular basis. We used a project coordinator who would work the whiteboard, moving parts, pieces around. She would also send out text messages, regular basis. This was a daily task. Became very mind-numbing, just a process that was too painful for anybody to deal with. We were able to utilize formerly labor chart moving into workforce management. On average, we were spending 15 plus hours a week. This is creating, making updates, moving the schedule around. Again, we're a self-performing company, so we have a lot of resources to move. Being in the concrete industry, pours start real early in the morning, 3 a.m. Weather delays come in, we all know, trying to pivot people, move them around. It was tough. It was tough on our project managers, tough on our operations team. We did run into some issues. We all know you start moving people, they don't show back up on site. Something cancels, send everybody else to another job site, half of them made it there. It's helped us plan. Biggest thing that we have seen, project managers more intimate in their job. They know who's where. They're forecasting better. They're looking at their projects, gathering their resources, knowing what they can do with these individuals. It has just made them more knowledgeable of how their projects run. Again, 79 resources. On average, we're looking at 30-ish minutes it takes us to be able to schedule our team. Pretty fortunate on the GC division. Our projects are longer term. We send out a schedule on a Sunday, put every individual where they need to be. We don't touch it again for a week. Concrete division, they're pivoting daily. Poor schedules are always changing. Weather's a big factor. We get things pushing, moving around. It's real nice. Can do this from laptop, cell phone. Either way, makes it a little bit easier for everybody to manage what they need to do. This slide here, we like to give as much information as possible. Everybody's seeing what their project title is, where they need to be. We utilize project numbers. You can enhance this whichever way you would like. Share the information, project address, any requirements going out to that site. We like to add in other information, superintendent's contact info, PPE requirements, anything that might be necessary to make sure that our resources know what's going on before they get to the site. You're able to see what the recipients are. So when you're sending out an alert through this screen right here, you can see who you sent it out to. It's text-based enabled or email. Drops all of the workers' information. So any one of our superintendents gets to look at this. They know who their crew is. Before they arrive on site, usually the night before, they know who will be on that site the next morning. Biggest advantages we've seen from this are staffing conversations. It's been phenomenal for us. Our project managers more in touch with who their teams are. Superintendents are knowing more of the skill sets. You're going to see another slide that's going to hit more on the fact of tags, details. You're able to see what the individuals can and cannot do. That is manually inputted. We're seeing more of project ownership. We do a lot with self-performance, so it is driven by our PMs, job costing, making sure they know what is happening with it. Knowing their teams, again, they own the project more. They're more in touch with making sure they're not adding additional resources, keeping the right people on there if it's heavy carpenters versus laborers. We've also seen an increase in productivity for us. Again, being self-performance based, we do a lot of Division 8, Division 10, Division 6. So these are driving factors for us to be out there pushing our self-performance. Now with that, Justin's going to speak a little bit further about what their use is.
Which button is it? Get my notes here. Thanks, David. Hi, everyone. I'm Justin Widener. I'm the Vice President of A&R Mechanical Services, which is the civil division of A&R Mechanical Contractors. We're based in Champaign-Urbana, Illinois, which is 2.5 hours south of Chicago. We all know that Central Illinois doesn't exist. So, what I do, my part of the business is essentially everything outside the building. We're self-performing. We do site work, site utilities, earthwork, demo, concrete. Again, anything that really goes outside of the building. And the type of projects we do, we do construction projects, which could be anything from a year to 2 years. We do special projects, which are just small, maybe 1 month projects. And then we also do service projects, which could happen, that day, take 2 hours, take 1 day, etc. So really, the different types of projects, the durations, and different types of roles, all those things that happen, it's very difficult to make sure that we're staffing those and doing that quickly and efficiently. And so while I was trying to do that, I was using all kinds of different apps that were disconnected. I was using a certain app for time cards, certain app for plans, a certain way to put out the schedule. And that really kind of created some problems. Number one, as everyone probably knows here, teaching technology to construction workers is hard. They don't like it, especially with the generational gap that we have now. Why do we need to do that? Those types of things. the technology adoption was tough, and that was my fault essentially because I was putting them in a place where they're reaching in too many spots for information. We had too many manual methods, time cards, paper time cards, T&M tickets for change orders, schedules. You'd be amazed how many time cards we got with no one's name on it. What job are we on? All these things happen, and it seems so simple, but the field workers are really just trying to get the job done, and it's funny, but sometimes a time card isn't really thought about. The hours of scheduling and communicating every week, David kind of touched on it. When you're a self-performing contractor and you've got all these types of projects, you've got to be able to adapt and move quickly. These guys need to know if they're off before they come to work and possibly drive an hour and then you rain them out. You've got to be able to talk with them, and there's multiple times where I would forget somebody. I would call everyone except for Joe, and then Joe's the only one at the job site, and I'm like, yeah, sorry about that, Joe. I owe you 2 hours, show up, and I guess go get a sandwich or something, you know. So with workforce planning, we needed that, obviously, and we needed a way to track the work that we had, and Procore did that for us, where we were able to bring everything that we were looking to track our work under one umbrella. So with field productivity, we were able to get time cards and time sheets into the project. So as I was saying, everybody, I would lose project names, numbers, dates. When you put the time cards inside of Procore, obviously the date, the project, and your name, all those simplified things, those are always automatic. And now I can actually start adding cost codes, locations, track hours against those things, and we're accelerating payroll. We're able to see, hey, has this person not put his time in the system? With T&M tickets, this is one of my favorites. We would literally do work on a job, and I didn't know it was happening. You'd get their written daily log. I would be like, wait a minute, we did what? We went out of scope? Where's the ticket for that? Oh yeah, I got it. Well, then I would get these tickets. They weren't signed. Some of them would be weeks old. We wouldn't get paid for some of these things, or it would be a very embarrassing call that I would have to make and say, hey, we have a month's worth of tickets we haven't turned in, and I realized they're 3 months old, but could we get paid for those? And usually the answer is no. With the T&M ticket tool, we're able to be in the job right at the moment where it comes time to, hey, will you do this? Yeah, we can. We start the ticket. We're able to put the location in, put the date in, all the information, pictures, receipts, anything you need for backup that you're going to need to get paid later, you're able to put right in there. And the best part of this tool, one of the best parts, is you can import the time cards that you just used. You can import those over to the timesheet, so your guys aren't filling out the time card and then filling out the time or the ticket. So that eliminates the dual entry. Once they sign it, they're able to essentially request the signature of the person who's supposed to be signing. So they just, if it's Bill the superintendent, they go put Bill the superintendent, request signature, email it off, they're done. So they don't have to go chase this guy for a signature. You know, they've worked 10 hours on a hot day. They're able to just request signature and go home. And finally, with workforce planning, David touched on it again. The amount of detail you need on some of these projects, it's not very easy to schedule things and just say, you know, show up at this job. Sometimes there's nuances with things that you need to do. Like, for instance, after you pour this sidewalk, I need you to go fix Mr. Carter's flagpole that we damaged last week. You can put those things in a text message and an email. If there's an emergency water main break, I can alert the entire crews across all jobs and say, I need a crew that needs to go to Villa Grove to replace this 8-inch water main. Who's available? and then I can assign that if I need to. So it increases the communication across all fields, all projects. So our outcomes here, obviously we have an accelerated payroll. The payroll is more accurate, and we're getting more information from that payroll as well to go against our budgets that our estimators have put in there. Project managers can track better. We're getting paid for our work. We're actually getting paid more for our work because we're tracking it better. The receipts aren't lost. I'm sure there's plenty of people here that have possibly, maybe not, but put in the T&M ticket, and then you've requested a bill, and then you get that invoice that comes in, and you're like, oh, we've already billed for this, and you're gonna eat that cost. So we're getting paid for those. And then we've got more informed teams, and which really actually, in my opinion, it increases morale of the guys in the field. They feel like they're connected and they know what's going on. And when you have an informed team, you have a better team. So that's all I got, Chris.
All right, thanks, Justin. So we heard those 4 big categories of how Procore products are helping these two plan, forecast, track, and connect their workforce today. We want to show a couple quick demos just on other capabilities that weren't covered in that show more about what the products can do to help folks today. And then at the end, we're going to talk a little bit more about where we're heading in the future.
Diving into the platform, we begin on the boards page. The intent of the boards page is to help us understand where our people are currently assigned and who is available on the bench over here on the left-hand side. This represents a person's baseball card and gives us an overview of the individual. Clicking the name takes us to their profile page, containing additional details that shows us what makes them unique. This is an example of rostering. We can see information like skill sets, trainings, certifications with expiration dates, and other attributes that help us best utilize people when scheduling. Now let's go back to the boards page. Here, scheduling someone is easy as dragging and dropping them under the right project. If I schedule Chris for the next couple of weeks, I can see his previous obligations to ensure that I'm not creating any conflicts. After I finalize the assignment details, I can ensure all relevant parties are immediately notified of the changes. When we transition from the boards page or a day-to-day view to a Gantt page, I can see who should be coming and going across projects and when. I can also see when we need more people. I can see that Chris will be leaving the ballpark renovation project on July 22nd, and John, Paul, and Ringo will be starting on the International Airport project on July 21st. I can also identify the need for more personnel using these blue bars, also known as requests. Here we need an apprentice level 3 to arrive on this project by Monday the 25th. These requests are also the key to forecasting projects effectively. We are on a project Gantt page, but I can also switch to a people Gantt view. This now shows me the current and future availability at an individual level. I can see what projects people are on today, what future projects they will be on, and whether they are under or over allocated. This project can be filtered to help us find the best fit for an upcoming need. Let's move to our dashboards. The totals page shows us where our workforce is headed as a whole. I can see where I have a surplus of personnel shown by in the green, or a deficit of personnel shown by the red. I can also look below into the details and determine which projects are causing the friction points. This view shows us our backlog and future allocations so we can optimize the utilization of our workforce. Procore Field Productivity makes collecting time, managing out-of-scope work, and getting real-time visibility into labor productivity fast and easy. There are 2 ways to enter time. For employees responsible for logging their own time, it's simple to clock in and clock out and switch tasks and projects. Clock in, select a cost code if required, track materials put in place, and get to work. Switch tasks to jump between a different scope of work or project. And clock out when you're done for the day. Each clock in and clock out is logged by GPS, so you can keep employees accountable. For a foreman responsible for entering time on behalf of a crew, it's straightforward to enter time for everybody at once. Select your crew, and bulk enter time assigned to a cost code. Enter materials put in place. Submit your timesheet with the labor hours and work completed. Employees can verify and sign off, so they can go back to focusing on more important tasks. As daily labor hours and production quantities are submitted, the field production report is updated in real time. giving visibility into which scopes of work are on track or at risk. With Procore's T&M tickets, field teams can fast-track the documentation, verification, and change management of tickets for extra work. Log labor, equipment, and material used in the field. Get verification directly off your mobile device or send a request for a remote signature with a click of a button. Automatic notification for folks back in the office means no more time chasing down paper tickets or following up on endless emails. This seamless workflow of tickets submitted enables your office team to take immediate action on verified work and generate a change in a matter of minutes, so you can get paid for work performed. All this historical data can be used moving forward to more accurately and competitively bid future jobs.
That's a little bit about what the product does today, how customers are using it. And one quick note I want to make is that I've talked with both of these guys pretty extensively about how they've used the product. And they've had a lot of ideas, too, about how to make improvements. I think, Justin, the signature request feature that you talked about was something that his team was in a beta and requested that capability to be added to the product. And it was something we were able to do to make improvements. So, they're both utilizing the product, but also helping to push it forward, which is something that, we love engaging with customers in Innovation Lab and in direct conversations about to make these products better over time. So just a small example of how his team and David and I later tonight are meeting up to talk more about it, but are continuing to push the product as well. So the last part I'll talk about here is where we're taking these two products in the future. This is what we call a product vision, which is a 3-year direction of where we're taking workforce management in Procore. Some of you may have seen this before. We hit on it a little bit earlier in the SE keynote too. But the summary here is that we want to build an end-to-end solution for construction workforce management in Procore. And when we say workforce management, we're not talking about building an HR system in Procore. We're not talking about things that are outside of the scope of construction, like other industries. We're really intentional about the intersection between a person, a job, and the work that's getting done. And that's what we're focused on with these 3 big categories. So as we've talked to folks in the industry, we know that planning workforce, tracking workforce, and forecasting are the most important tasks that need to be done to manage people. We see a lot of times that these are disconnected processes like the spreadsheets we showed you earlier, or like the whiteboards that these folks used to use. So we want to bring it all into Procore because we think that connecting it in an end-to-end way is the best way we can help with our mission that we talked about earlier. So in the middle here is a little bit about what we think can happen with connecting these processes in Procore. We think that by bringing all of these 3 into one platform, we can have a single source of truth for employees that can be planned, tracked, and forecasted against. Most people have that directly integrated into an accounting system. That's an area we're going to continue to invest in and expand. The next, and I'm going to go a little out of order here, but the next is one that we recently made a big investment into, which is a unified user experience. So with the labor chart acquisition we made last year, one of the first things we wanted to do was bring that user experience into Procore so that people can access labor chart as a Procore company level tool. That helps a lot with training for field folks or for people that are accessing workforce planning alongside other Procore tools. We want to have a single pane of glass that they can access their technology through. So I know that a few of these guys are accessing it now through Procore. That's one of the ways that we're trying to unify that into a single place to access. And the third, and probably my favorite and most exciting, is connected data and insights. So one of the worst parts about manually planning, tracking, and forecasting is that data typically gets entered 3 or more times. We've heard this from a lot of folks in the industry. A labor plan needs to become something that's tracked on site, which then needs to get entered into some kind of financial system. And it requires a lot of duplicative or triplicative data entry. And a lot of times it's the same data too. So, this is bad because it hurts efficiency, but it also hurts with data accuracy. If it's getting re-entered, there's a lot more possibility for issues. So one of the things we're really excited about is connecting data across those 3 different phases in workforce management. And just one example of how we can do that is with reporting. It's a big investment we're making now on the P&T side at Procore, is how can we bring labor plan data and labor actual data into a single reporting solution so that you can see plan versus actual type of information in the future. So again, this stuff is a little bit further out than things we're talking about in our regular What's New webinar, but it is stuff that we're actively looking at the future and thinking, how can we better empower our contractors with better tooling to manage their workforce. Long term, we think that connected data can help serve up insights to customers about how to better manage your workforce. So we'll be looking to partner with folks in this room about how that data can be leveraged to make better, more informed workforce management decisions in the future. So just a quick recap, the end-to-end construction workforce management solution is what we're really excited about with what these guys talked about today. They're using parts of it, but it is an area that Procore is doubling down on investing in, and we're expecting a lot of more great capabilities to come in this area. So wanted to say thank you to these two for sharing the awesome stories. I learned a lot from working with them, and thank you all for coming and chatting with us about workforce management for a bit today.